Morning everybody, and welcome to Sassenach Quilts at the Cloth House. So today I'm going to show you about the very first project I've made on the longarm machine. Show you what I did well, show you what I've done wrong, and then we're going to make something together. So let's have a look down at what I did. This is the very first thing I did. So here's my machine. It's not switched on just now, but here's my machine, and this is the computer aided design package that you can get to attach to it. It's called ProStitcher Lite, and what you can do is you can do patterns with it. So as you can see here, what I've done is I programmed it to make the outer square, I've programmed it to make the inner square, and then I've programmed it to draw this design in the middle. Now as you can see, there's things that I need to learn, like tie-offs and how to make them neat and tidy. However, I did get it to all be square, inner square, and then put the lovely pattern, which is called fleur-de-lis and hearts, in the middle of it, which is really good, and there's always threads everywhere. So that is 10 inches square. The second one I did, I managed to get the box inside the other box, but then this was too big, so I didn't measure it properly. So that was a learning curve for me. The third one, this one, you can see here it's gone a bit squiffy at the bottom, and that was because the cable was getting caught at the back. So having moved the boxes that are now being stored underneath the frame, it was then able to make the inside one a square. So we've moved that. That one is called square feathers, so that'll be nice as well. Then this one, having done all of that, those three, this one then ran out of bobbin halfway through. Thankfully it ran out in the middle somewhere, so that was really good, and then all of there. And so what I did is I got it to stitch it again, and it actually made quite a nice double stitch pattern. I actually quite like that. So that's another one. And then the last one, we decided to go fancy Dan and just see what the machine is capable of. And as you can see on here, you can get really intricate patterns. Again, it's got the square within the square, which is the one that I did, and then its pattern is another square in a square, and then the fancy Dan pattern inside, and the continuous curve and the fill in the middle. It's just beautiful. It did have a stop and a start to get into this corner here, but that's fine, we managed it, and you know what, I'm just so proud. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the snowflake to be the bottom one, so that will be on the bottom of the box like that, and then inside we'll have these like this coming up like that. It'll all be trimmed to fit so that it's the same size, and we'll make a box like that to store things in. What's really good about the inside of these is that with my sustainable quilting thing, the batting that I've put inside is actually strips that I've cut off quilts, like this bit here. Don't throw it away, because I can probably get 2 more out of that, and I will get 2 more out of that to practice on. So I'm using all of my scraps to practice. You can see there's a slight difference of the pattern inside the box, but really and truly, is anybody actually going to notice that? Really, once it's in use, I don't think anybody will. The backs of it, really happy with how they have come out. There's a few bits to trim, but that's really, really good. And then I have more backing here waiting to go on. Now, as I said, I am a sustainable quilter, so this is actually an unpicked pillowcase, believe it or not. And what I've done is I've unpicked it, I've cut the buttons and everything off, and my handy helper Jeff, my partner, he's my top unpicker of pillowcases. He loves it. And what we're going to do then is join us as we sew it together. Okay. So here we are at my machine. I have an elderly vintage Elna SU62C. So if I can do it on this, everybody can do it on their machine. So what I'm going to do, I've just trimmed the ones that are a little bit bigger to size, so now they all match in all dimensions. They're I don't know what that dimension is, it doesn't matter, they're all the same. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew them together, 4 of them together to make the 4 sides that'll go round, and then I'll attach the snowflake one as the bottom. So let's do that. Let's take these, put them right sides together. Now I don't do a very much pinning or marking because for me I find it easier. My machine has a really hefty clamp down on it and I'm going through 4 layers of fabric and 2 layers of batting. If your machine won't cope with that, use a walking foot for this. Okay, I'm matching it to the edge of the fabric just here, and I'm going to do a straight stitch all the way down at about 1/4 inch. I've got the diagonal seam tape here. Let me just get my foot. And there we go. And line it up, make sure that's down, which it is. And I'm just lining it up to the edge of the foot, which on my machine is 1/4 inch. So that's lovely. I've got it on a good 3.5 inch stitch because it needs to be, because it is very thick as I'm going through. And just encouraging it so I don't get any tucks, and when I do get a little tuck, just encouraging it in. There we go, that's the first bit of stitching done. Now, the tartan, black watch tartan that I'm using is actually a polyviscous, and that is a something that frays. So if I open these out, you'll see they're fabulous, look really lovely. But this black watch tartan does fray like absolute billio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an edge, just pull the threads out the way there. I'm going to do an edge stitching on here, and I'm going to use a zigzag. I can just get him under there like that. Perfect. Again, put the stitch down and then use the same stitch length, maybe a little bit narrower, and just do an edging of stitching all the way down to stop this from fraying. And it'll also give the corners of the box a little bit of rigidity. And the light colour inside the box will also make it easier for things to be found. So let me just show you that. So we've got my original stitching here, and then the zigzag on the edge both sides, so that will stop it from fraying, and it will also give the box some rigidity. So I'm going to do that now to the other 2 sides of the box, and then we'll come back when I'm sewing the bottom on. Hi, so here we are. I've sewn all of them together now in a nice big long line with as even seams as I can. You can see if I go between these 2 that I've got it nicely evenly spaced between my double boxes that I've sewn, and that's the case all the way along. I'm actually quite pleased with how that's turned out. And then here, this is the one that's got a box in a box and a box and a box and a box. It's turned out really, really well. So if I flip this one over, you can now see that I've got the inside stitching, which is a single line, and then I've got the anti-fray zigzag that I'm also happy with. Now, I'm not going to put binding over the individual inside support struts, as I'm calling these, of my box, but if you wanted to do that on yours, then absolutely go for it. It would only take 5-10 minutes, but for me this is a project on how to construct a box and make the long arm work rather than how to make the box look pretty on the inside. I'm actually really not bothered about that. So I've got all of the stripes going in the same direction. So what I'm going to do now is, there's one that's slightly longer on the bottom here this one here, and I'm not going to trim it because this is the one that had the wonky outside box due to the cable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make use of that and do a slightly bigger seam here on this one as I attach the first side of the bottom of the box, like that, inside like that. I'm going to come up inside here a little bit further than I did for the last one to compensate, and I'm just going to sew a straight seam. Oops, nothing like being a little bit off to camera, but hey, we're all friends here. A nice straight seam down. You can see where the snowflake comes over that it's not going to be perfectly matched and it's actually going to be in the seam, but again, I'm happy with that because it's different and it brings a smile to my face, so that's good. I'm going to go back a little bit there as well. There we go. And this will also need the zigzag stitch, so let's do that as well. There's the other end. There's the other end. Don't forget to snip your slip so it doesn't get caught in your machine. And then come under here. It doesn't take long to switch between. And then do the anti-fray. And this really does work. I made lots of masks during lockdown in 2020, made over 500. And with this particular fabric, this viscose tartan, if you ever sew with this viscose tartan, it's quite an open weave. So every seam that you do with it needs the extra anti-fray stitching. You can use zigzag or you can use that one that looks like a heartbeat. I think it's got a name but I can't remember it. And then just go back into it. There we go. Just to tie it off. Perfect. So the sharp-eyed amongst you will have noticed that that was a little bit of a blooper and I did not sew right sides together. So after my seam reaper has been in use, I now have the 5 sides of the shape. Now, those of you that have seen the new beautiful box on AdamSewFun and ProStitcher.com which I will put in the description box below, will now recognise the shape, but because of me being a beginner I needed to do it the hard way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the corner here. This is attached with the seam. You can see that the point of the snowflake has been caught in the seam, but I'm okay with that. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the corner here and sew this side of the box together from the corner here. Once I've got it right in the corner to that corner, and get it under the machine. Now those of you that do have a walking foot, as I suggested before, I suggest you use your walking foot. In fact, I might start at the other end, I think it might be easier. And as with all sewing projects, you find the easiest way as you go along. Now there's 6 layers there, that's it. Get that corner to corner. There. And I'm going to run onto it or run backwards with my stitching. There we go. Perfect. I've got it in, got the machine foot down, I've got my stitch on straight stitch. So let's go. And then back. And that just stops it from fraying. Now my underneath one's a little bit longer, so I'm going to let that dangle and lift it up, and then the feed dogs will work their magic and even out that seam. Just like that. There we go. Now, as I said, this machine is like a semi-industrial machine, so do be careful as you go through the these and do these thick seams if you don't have a walking foot in place and you don't know how strong your machine foot is. I know that my machine is really strong, so I'm able not to use one. So I am now going to do the zigzag safe stitch down there as well to stop it all from fraying. I've got it to go in. There we go. Now it doesn't matter that it's not straight. It seriously won't be seen. And if it is seen, I'm okay with that. My project, my rules. I'm okay with that. Perfect. And that will just stop that from fraying. No, it's not particularly neat, but that's okay because it's on the inside of the box. And what I can do, I can just trim these little bits of fray off the seam like that. Trim the bit at the end, and those other bits and the other bit of fabric inside really and truly will hold it all together like that. And I can see now that I've already got a point. I can just poke him out. I can slide a bit nearer. I'll poke him out like that into the corner with my finger like that, and you can see that I'm beginning to get the box. So I've just got 3 more seams to do and then he'll be done. So here we are. We've got 5 sides, all 4 of the sides sewn together, and we've got the base on, which is a snowflake which hangs over the edge a little bit, but the pattern was anyway. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew the very last seam, which is just joining the last side of the box together, and then I will show you how I'm going to put the binding on that goes around the top edge and what I use for binding, because it's not your normal binding so that you're all used to. I make it a different way, and I want to show you how you can make that sustainably and just give it the first mention before I do another YouTube video on binding itself. So we'll just do a very quick 1/4 inch seam down here and make sure everything gets tucked in nicely. Make sure my 3-point seam at the bottom here is getting into that hole there in the corner, which it is. Perfect. And then we will just trim the thread at the top and do the zigzag stitch down the edge, and then I will have a box. And we'll do that backwards as well, a few stitches, and then just come all the way down here. Perfect. Just trim that, and then let's turn him round the right way and see how he looks. I'll push my machine back a little bit so we have space here. There we go. Perfect. So grab a corner, turn him the right way round. Oh, I'm really liking that. Just poke those corners out with my finger. This is just going to be for like projects I haven't finished yet, some UFOs, some works in progress, some WIPs, and for things like that in my sewing room when I get it. So, but I also wanted it to be a practice for my long arming. So as you can see at the minute, the top of him is collapsing inwards a little bit. I don't mind about that, because what goes in there will stiffen him up so that he is a cubby, and he's actually quite big. This is actually sewn out at about 9.5 inch square or 9.5 inch cube, and as you can see, it's actually come out quite big. It's lovely. Why would you want something bigger? And it will fit in the cubby holes for Kallax from IKEA, but it might be a little bit small. You can make them bigger, and you should follow the video by Adam So Fun. Hi Adam. I put the link in the description box below if you want to make his version of this. So let me just show you the binding that I'm going to use. Now I'm actually going to use this purple binding because I think that'll look quite nice there at the top round the edge. It won't interfere too much. The amazing thing about this binding is it's 2.5 inch strips cut from stripy shirts. Yeah, I know. So this, believe it or not, is shirt fabric, and there is over 570 inches, yes, you heard me, 570 inches of binding from an men's extra large long shirt. Now there's a very good video out there that shows you how to cut it and how to prepare the shirt. And if you cut, once you've deconstructed the shirt into its constitutional shapes, like the front and the back and the sleeve, if you cut across the ways, not lengthways, that is how you get all of this beautiful binding. And it's really top quality cotton, Pima cotton fabric. It's beautiful. For example, I think this one is a Ted Baker, if memory serves right. This one I know is a Autograph by Marks and Spencer's, which is a UK brand, really high quality cotton. It's beautiful. So that is the one that's going to go around the top here. Cut 2.5 inch strips and then fold it in lengthways. And Cathy at Catbird Quilts, hey Cathy, she has a very good video on binding from men's dress shirts. So I will point you in that direction for instruction on how to do it. Thank you, and don't forget to like and subscribe and ding the bell so that you get the updates as they come along. Take care now. Bye from the cloth house. Bye. So I've attached the binding. I realised there was one more part of the video to go. I've attached the binding in the normal way that you attach it. I've attached it to the inside of the box. I'm now flipping it round to the outside of the box. I've joined the two ends together using the straight method because it works better for me. And I'm now sewing it using my machine to the outside of the box, just sewing it down and making sure that it's nice and neat around the edge. So I've also moved my needle to the left hand side, so I'm matching up the edge here of the binding to my foot, and I'm also then on the left hand side, and that gives a nice 1/8 of an inch seam around the side of the binding. And it's a circle, so I've also taken the flatbed off my machine to give me a chance to go round and just make it easier. And I'm just using my thumb on my right hand to guide it across. And again, don't forget my machine has a very hard clamp to it, so I'm confident that it can get through the seams and the thick bits. If you're not confident your machine can do that, then do use your walking foot. And I will just trim the bits of fray as I go. I haven't done the zigzag around the top edge of the box because I knew I was going to put the binding around the top, but if you wanted to add that extra step you could. I'm confident that the binding will hold it all in, and it will just cover all of the problems associated with the box. Now, stripy binding I think looks best with the stripes edge on like that, and that is the way for a shirt the stripes are lengthways down the shirt. So if you cut across as you cut the strips from the shirt and sew them all together, it means you get this lovely sort of Pippi Longstocking effect around the edge of your quilts and around the edge of your projects that you make that require a binded edge or a bound edge. I don't know if it's binding is bounded or bidden or whatever, but whatever, anyway. That is what you do, and you just carry on all the way around, just going over the seams. And because the shirt fabric is soft, it is a little bit more soft, so it doesn't matter though. It will hold. We use, here at the Cloth House, we use stripy binding on all of our quilts. It's kind of like a little bit of a trademark for us, and it just looks fabulous, especially if you make it so that it matches the colours within the quilt. And there's a majority of shirts, or from thrift stores or from charity shops here in the UK. If you are determined, you will find the colours that you need to go with your projects that you have on the go at the moment. So you just have to be determined and visit regularly to find the shirts that you want. And sometimes you'll find one shirt, sometimes you won't find any. But that's okay, you just keep going back. And for those of us that are lucky enough to have retired early, then it's wonderful. And you just keep on going all the way around, like this. Just helping it through a little bit when it gets to the box seams. And just holding it and encouraging it over like that. But you must be careful that you don't get your fingers caught in the needle, depending on your machine. I don't know how much space you've got. Everybody's machine seems so different, so I'm really lucky that this one, I've never sewn myself, but I know some people have, so do be careful as you're doing this, because it can be awkward. And just, oh, here we go, I'm nearly there. Nearly all the way around. So adjust that a little bit with my needle down, just adjusting this as we come back to the final bit. That's better. It's lying flatter. There we go. And as you get round to your where you started it, just trim those bits off so it doesn't get caught in the foot of your machine. If it's a bit baggy, like mine is a little bit baggy, so if I hold it and pull it down over the edge, I could just take in that extra little bit of fabric, and then if I put my needle down, I can just ease that seam in a little bit like that. Perfect. Do a little bit stitch on there. There we go. And that's now a completed box. I'll just trim those little bits off there. And then we have our cubby box. How cool is that? And you can see I'm quite happy. These will fray a little bit, but that's fine. It actually makes rigidity of the box. And you can see by putting the binding on, it's actually enabling the box to stand up on its own. It's 10 inches square, but you can, to give you all an idea of size, I've got something here to show you that will show you how big it is. This is a tin that you get your Christmas things in, and that goes in nicely at the bottom. So there we are. And then you could put all sorts in here. It's marvellous. So I'm really pleased with that. It's come together really nicely. The pattern is fabulous, and the concept from ProStitcher and HandiQuilter and Adam Sofan, who did a fantastic video of it, is superb. But if you haven't got the throat space on your long arm machine, if you've got a smaller frame, then scale it down. This is 10-inch squares. They finished 10-inch squares, which I've sewn together, 4 in a row and 1 down, and then sewn the base on. And then if you look at the base as well, that's the snowflake one that went over the edge a little bit, but that's fine. It's a fantastic thing, and that's the first thing I have ever made on my long arm machine, and you can see how complicated the pattern can get. So take care, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ding the bell so that you can follow us here on YouTube, and see you soon from the Cloth House and Sassenach Quilts. Bye!